Good afternoon.
How you doing?
I'm alright. How are you?
Tired.
Tired.
Yeah, that's good.
Long week.
I feel like it's been a very, very long week.
A lot of stuff's been happening, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
We're gonna have to unpack a little bit of it.
Yeah, okay. Hello. Welcome to the Chi Talks. He says, she says. Totally forgot the rest of that.
It happens. Keep it rolling.
I know. My brain is just fried.
Shows how long of a week it's been.
It really has been. I think my sleeping's been pretty off.
Yeah? Why? What's been going on? Why are you staying up late? I've been staying up late too, so
Yeah.
So you go first and then I'll go.
A lot has been going on. I'm having like my own mini existential crisis right now, to be honest.
Ooh. Do we get to talk about it?
Gosh.
I'm also having a bit of a crisis, so it's
Yeah.
going to be a heavy episode, I think.
Oh man, okay. I'm sorry, Yin Youngs. I totally brain farted on that. Welcome to the Chi Talks. He says, she says. Chi Talks, I don't know what it is. Oh my god. Can we start over?
No. This is the whole point of it,
Oh
right?
my god, I'm so
The
sorry.
whole
My
point
brain
was
is
that
so...
we're allowed to be human.
Oh, this is
We're allowed to have brain farts, and we keep it rolling, right?
Yeah, we're literally trying to detox all of this craziness.
It's been a lot this week, man.
But in all fairness, I may have forgotten our intro, but I have not forgotten how to apply it into my actual life. So I feel like I get a little bit of grace, maybe. Oh my god.
do for me.
8 conversations in, and I totally went blank on our greetings. I didn't forget about our yin yangs, but shit, damn, I'm so sorry, guys. That's how long this week has been.
Well, that's what happens when you've been sleeping late every day, right?
I have definitely been sleeping very late.
Why are you sleeping late, though?
Just a lot has been transitioning. Like, I think I'm transitioning into different seasons.
Yeah.
So.
Well, your IG is blowing up.
I know.
Like fucking blowing
I know.
up.
I'm so okay. So outside of the Chi Talks, I created a secondary Instagram, not my main one, but I just post like truly about, Chinese medicine as a lifestyle and different things that are a little bit of a different perspective from Western and Eastern. And yeah, I started with 999 followers the early last week.
Yeah, when?
It was like last,
That's
my God.
insane.
June something. And I'm now looking at almost 9,000 in
That's so
10
insane.
days.
I mean, you fucking deserve it, though. Your content is good and you're
Thank
consistent.
you.
So I think, what else would IG want from content creators?
I don't know, cute dancing,
I mean, check.
acupuncture.
No dancing.
Sometimes, just not on this one. But yeah, I've been creating a lot of content for sure. Professionally, personally, just a lot of different seasonal
And what's the handle
changes.
so people can follow you?
Are you letting me shamelessly
Throw it
plug?
out, man.
It is at the Witch Dr. Han, witch as in like cackling pointy hat witch.
I mean, it's good content, so like people need to hear it.
I appreciate that. I do
Yeah.
put a lot of thought into the things that I say and do. I know you've had a heavy week.
Heavy is the right word.
Do you want to talk about it, or do you want to wait a little bit?
I think we can try to talk about it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a bit fresh. Yeah. My kung fu master passed away last week. Unexpectedly from a heart attack. So it's one of those like no one saw it coming, no foreshadowing, just like by all appearances completely healthy, and then 2 days later he's gone. Yeah. So the whole family's in shock. I was in shock. It's interesting to get news like that, and then to see how your mind reacts, like first reaction.
Yeah.
And for me, first reaction was just like a freeze response. Like, wait a second,
Yeah.
what now?
Yeah.
And I think it took a little while for reality to settle in. But yeah, it just was interesting also to see some of the process that my mind and my heart went through to try to find a sense of balance after the news. So you were there when I first heard the news, so it was really helpful to have someone to talk to about it and just to be there, I think, more than anything.
Yeah.
And it's a bit difficult right now, actually, to bring it into my conscious even like thinking about it right now, I can feel emotions like bubbling up and getting caught in my throat. So yeah, a very, very difficult week, but I think I'm happy that I think I'm grieving it properly, whereas a different version of myself would definitely probably bury it in some ways and, ignore it or squash the emotions. So I'm happy that I'm at a space right now where I can let my body do what it needs to do, and in this case it's been a lot of crying.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's unfortunate to say the least, but such is life, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There never is a right answer to like, how does one grieve, right?
Yeah, I think in any case you could say the answer is never to squash it. How your mind and your body decides to, for lack of a better term, metabolize the pain, I'm sure can vary across the board, but ignoring it and pushing it down, I don't think is ever the right answer.
What is the right way for you to be supported when you first heard the news versus a little bit of time has passed versus a lot of time has passed? Like, for you as a man, right? Because I think the versions of grief are different between men and women. Like, women scream, we cry, we pass out, we have this like cathartic release of emotions, but for men it's really difficult to cry freely or to, because there's so much like real men don't cry type of toxicity out there. So if there is somebody, because there are people who are going through this process of grief, similar to you, we've both experienced the loss of our fathers, different times of course, but this is so kitschy, this is so cringe and cliche, but I feel like I know a lot of male friends who need to hear this from a man, not as like a woman being emotional, but like give them permission. If what I'm trying to say, sometimes that you can and it's safe to, but like it feels better when someone's like, no, you should be true and be in the moment. But it's different coming from a man to a man versus a woman to a man and vice versa, you know what I mean? So if you could, for people that resonate with the way that you grieve, right? This is not for everyone, because grief is different. What would you allow yourself and what would you want others to feel, in this grief process?
I think the body knows how it wants to bring you back into balance.
Mm-hmm.
My heart and my mind, there's already this self-regulating mechanism,
Okay.
right? So all the pain that I'm feeling, actually my physiology is, it wants to bring me back to a state of peace.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, allowing that process to happen, and I think for most people it would just be a lot of grief and sorrow and tears and letting that come out, then it's actually, you're doing yourself a favor by allowing that process to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And any resistance towards it, it's as if you're pushing the pain underneath a rug, and the more you push it under there, the more it festers and rots inside of you, and actually it takes up your own life force to like maintain that situation. So just for me, it just doesn't make any sense for my own well-being to take that approach. And especially considering that we all have very finite resources, and using your own resources to hold old emotions trapped away inside of you is just, to me, it doesn't make sense logically, it doesn't make sense for the body, it doesn't make sense in any regards to approach things that way. And the only way it makes sense is through like an ego or this idea of we have to maintain this particular facade of ourselves to the outside, which is very ironic because the appearance of being strong is kind of the opposite of what is really being strong, in my opinion. And I think for all the men out there, if you really want to be strong, then it's understanding that this mask we put on to appear a certain way is actually quite illusory. And holding on to that idea of ourselves is actually a great weakness that we, for whatever reason, the story in our head is that this is strength, but it's actually not. To me, it's the opposite of true strength. True strength to me is allowing what needs to happen in a way where it may hurt and it may feel terrible, but having the resilience to deal with the emotions and work through them without like battling and struggling. I think that to me is true strength. So yeah, I think going back to your original question, like what would I need of someone to support me through this, is I don't need assurances that things will be okay, because I know they'll be okay. I don't need assurances that, you know, this is how life is, because I understand that as well. I think for me personally, it's just, I think just to be there, and I think for me silence is good, just presence is good enough, because logically I understand that this is life, things will be okay, this is pain, the pain is because, you know, he meant something to me. So yeah, I think just presence to be there, and as I work through some emotions. Yeah.
Different versions of you grieve differently, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there is an expectation that you especially practice meditation and Tai Chi and Kung Fu, and you have this like inner mastery that most people, including myself, don't have. Would you say that it's easier for you to be genuine and authentic in the acknowledgement of your feelings because of that. And if true or not, is there a way that helped you get more comfortable with that type of acknowledgement of genuine feeling?
I think it depends on the people I'm with. I think certain people, I think it's a matter of safety. Mm-hmm. I haven't dissolved my ego, so to say. Mm-hmm. So certain people will make me feel safe enough where I'm like, okay, this is just, I'm gonna cry, and that's it. I'm gonna cry, and I feel safe with you, so it's all good. But if I was let's say I'm on the subway, and I think about my mask, I'm not gonna start bawling on the subway, even though if we're gonna be very technical about things, maybe I should. Maybe the strongest version of myself would just start bawling on the subway and not give a crap what people think. But I think definitely safety is one thing. But yeah, safety. Safety.
Yeah. I've always wondered how to console somebody, right? Like, as you mentioned, we all have people that are like, oh, it's going to be fine, you're going to be okay. We know that, right? And sometimes those words are supportive. They can feel that, right?
For sure. I think some people need that.
Yeah.
I personally don't need that, but I think some people do.
Right. Just to but then I also think that there's people who need to be a little bit more tough love, get yourself together, don't fall apart, let's we can get through this. And I think there's different ways of consoling somebody. How do you know? Because sometimes when I lost my father, I didn't grieve. I had to do everything. I had to deal with the hospital. I had to deal with the funeral home. I had to deal with my grieving mother. I was not afforded the luxury of throwing a tantrum, crying, and whatever else, right? And then it gets complicated because what if you didn't have such a great relationship with a person who just passed, right? And there's this overlying idea of we do not speak ill of the dead. And all of a sudden, even if he was a horrible person in real life, during life, now that he's passed, or whoever has, now we're like, oh, they were great, they were a ball of sunshine. And, it's so hard to be authentic when you're in that moment of, one, shock. One moment this person's here, and another moment the person is not. And then if I'm needing to be supported, but somebody needs more support than I do, how do you switch that on and off, right? I think grief is so complex in that where I'm not super emotional, except for the very, very, very select few people. And because of that, everybody, my family, they're all like, oh, but you're strong, you're independent, you know what you're doing. And it was just kept dumping stuff on me. So then I have this responsibility to keep my shit together and not fall apart, because then everyone else falls even more apart, and it becomes a competition of whose shit is bigger, right? It's
yeah.
So I didn't process my grief surrounding that for about a year. And then little by little, it was seeping through in other aspects of am I my existential crisis of am I just a fucked up bitch? I'm not crying about it, but I think what it came down to is I didn't give myself the space to do so, but I also didn't know how. Crying about it doesn't change anything for me. So even if I'm frustrated, I'll cry for a brief moment, get out of my system, and then I'm like, okay, how do I fix this, right? I'm a fixer. Some people just want to keep crying. And what if you butt heads? For instance, you were going through that in the moment, and the only way I know how to console you is to be no, it's gonna be fine, no, don't worry, he had such a great life. You don't necessarily feel consoled by that, right? Do you still want somebody to console you if it's not the way that you want? it to be or need it to be? I guess want and need are different. So if it's not the way that you want to be consoled.
That's a great question. Let me imagine the scenario in my head right now. So I'm like super sad, crying, and this person, I imagine, probably feels in some way uncomfortable and wants me to stop crying. So they therefore maybe like say some things to potentially staunch the bleeding.
Yeah.
I would just be like, okay, this person I don't feel safe with. I'm not gonna cry in front of this person anymore.
No, but it's a real thing, you know.
And yeah, I wouldn't think less of them as a friend. I would say in my head, like, this was them trying their best to help me out. But I would definitely keep tabs of it. I would understand, this is an attribute of this person, and in the future I probably would not feel super safe to cry around them. I imagine that's the process that would happen. But I would still appreciate their attempt at consoling me, But yeah, I think everyone does need something different. And some people do need tough love, but I think you have to look at what stage of grief they're in and kind of match that. Because I think everyone's journey through grief, they're going to need different things at different times, and if they're stuck wallowing for too long, maybe a slap in the face is what they need at that moment.
To bring them back.
Yeah. So I think it's very fluid. We're all going to need different things at different times, but hopefully the person doing the consoling has enough sense and experience with their own emotions to be able to give the person what they need at the correct time. I imagine maybe many people don't have that. I would call that wisdom, I think. That has to be experienced, I think, to understand the nuances of it. Yeah.
Can I ask you a different type of question? And you don't have to answer it, obviously, if you don't feel comfortable to. What are you grieving?
What am I grieving?
Yeah, like, what are you grieving with the loss of of your master's life, right? Like,
I think on surface level is just, he's my Tai Chi master, so it feels like a bit of my access to Tai Chi and martial arts and the lineage has been severed. But I think on a deeper level, he just...
Can I share something that deeply stayed with me in the moment you got your news about your master's passing? I was actually with Jeff when he got the news, and very small, but just such a deeply resonating statement, and it was, I think the world just lost one of its lights. And that stayed with me on such a deep level, right? And the reason why I wanted to ask, like, what you're grieving is obviously there's a relationship, there is love, there's history, right? But for someone to have that profound of an impact on you, and not be blood family or, given family, there's got to be a lot. And it's almost like, maybe it's not a good way of supporting and being supportive, but a lot of people call, celebration of life, talking about all the good things, talking about all the good memories and things like that. But I think just going through what this person meant to you, how their life interweaved into yours, is a good way of just truly remembering the person that they were to you and that continues to stay with you, right? That statement alone made me realize that, yes, physically he might not be here, but what he has indelibly left in your heart, on your soul, has been imprinted, and that shapes forever who you are, right? And so that grief also becomes a part of, because your master is also like an extension of yourself, right? So.
Yeah. I think, you hold space in your heart for everyone that you care about.
Mm-hmm.
And I think someone passing, you still hold the space for them.
Mm-hmm.
But in a way, it feels like the space has been hollowed out a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like what in particular am I grieving? It's hard to say, but I think yeah, there's just an emptiness where there was once like something.
I think it's different when it's somebody's footsteps that you're following in, right? And again, we have potentially very different responses and journeys and experiences, but for most of you, you know that I'm fourth generation and whatever else, which means my father was the person who kind of dragged me into Chinese medicine and into this life, into this world. I'm glad he did. I was going to be a lawyer, and Lord knows we don't need any more lawyers in the world. We need more
We need
doctors.
good lawyers.
True,
We need more good
true.
lawyers, right?
But my dad and I had a very interesting relationship, right? Very conventional, like conservative Asian dad. I'm not the most conventional Asian daughter. Like, I'm aggressive, I'm like, whatever else. And so my dad and I butt heads a lot. And that relationship started to feel a little better when I became an acupuncturist. And we started healing that relationship a bit as we shared patient cases and notes. And my dad was probably the best Chinese medicine doctor that you would ever have met in this lifetime or another. Just the way that he read and felt energy, and he could just healing through energy. He didn't even have to use needles, which was insanity. And the way that he would ask different questions and be able to open up a whole new just paradigm of what this person is going through on a mind, body, spirit level was incredible. And so we didn't talk about the personal stuff, but we started to heal a little bit. And before we got really close, my dad died. And I processed a lot of anger and resentment. I think a part of that led to my kind of implosion of like grief of like, am I a fucked up human being because I'm not like crying and falling all over myself because I lost my father? I've seen my friends lose their parent or parents, and I didn't react similarly at all to any of them. I was like business mode. Let me take care of business. Let me go to work. Let me do this. Now I have to take care of my mom financially. I have to do this. And like everything was just so black and white that I didn't have time. And I also felt very performative and fake about like grieving for my father, I did find myself having a lot of intrepidation, like fear. Like, oh my God, I don't have a mentor. I don't have somebody to ask if I'm doing the right things as an acupuncture doctor. Who the fuck am I supposed to ask? And then it was like, oh my God, my dad died, but I lost my mentor. And it's like, I couldn't reconcile that they were the same person, because my father did not have a good relationship with me. But my mentor and I, him as my mentor, had a wonderful relationship, right? So every time people would be like, oh my God, you're so lucky that you can continue in your father's footsteps, that killed me. Little by little, my soul just shriveled, because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I had so much confidence because all I had to do is call my dad and ask, and I'd have direction, right? Mm-hmm. It forced me to grow up. So it forced me to really like forge my own way and things like that. But I like to ask, like, what are you actually grieving? Because I don't know that I necessarily miss my father, because I don't really have a relationship in that aspect. Like, conservative man, Asian female daughter, we don't really have a lot to talk about, right? I think it'd be very different if my mother passes. But it was hard because there are two different entities to me in one body, right? And I think on a personal level of curiosity, your Kung Fu master is kind of like a secondary father to you, where you had the man as a father figure and a man mentor figure that were both wonderfully beautiful to you. So I'm wondering if like that's different, right, in the way that you grieve or reconcile, if they're two different characters in one body. Is that confusing?
A little bit. But it's a good question. I don't think I've thought deeply enough about it to give a really good answer to that question. I can only say the first thing that comes to my head when I think about it. I think some of the first thoughts I had was I was worried for like my master's wife and other people that are still here that will, you know, be in pain too. I can only assume my master is in a better place now, so it doesn't make much sense to grieve his physical form since it's gone, so surely he's not in pain. So I guess grieving, number one was that the world lost someone very important. Number two, the people around him that are going to be suffering. And after that, just, I guess, selfishly, it's like, oh, I'll never get to go and train with them again and learn the secrets of Tai Chi, you know. So I think just a mixture of all of those thoughts and emotions, and I think worry for other people as well. That's the best I can answer. I think I would have to really, I'd have to think about that question, like what exactly am I grieving? I don't know.
I mean, I don't think there is anything specific in that. It's just when we're dealing with death or loss, it's easy to talk about grief, right? But a lot of it was like, I was grieving the loss of my identity, right? Like, who am I going to be now that I don't have this guiding light? How am I going to carry this on if I don't know if I'm even doing the right things, right? Granted, it's like, it was a crutch because not everyone's a second, third, fourth, fifth, millionth generation acupuncturist. They forge their own way, but it's terrifying when it's like, oh, well, you can carry it on. And I'm like, what if I never wanted this? Or what if I didn't want to continue this, right? There were so many other questions that became complicated in the grief of losing my father, right? And so, I don't know. It might seem a little bit weird because these past couple of weeks, I've had patients and clients go through different versions of grief, right? Especially working in fertility. It's different forms, right? Grief of coulda, shoulda, woulda, this never, possibilities, and whatever else. And no one actually knows what grief is or how to grieve, right? We think it's like this great sadness or this like shock and rage, but no one can actually define what is grief. How do you grieve, right? And I think the advice that you gave to just acknowledge and be in the moment and not like push things down and out, I think that's the best answer, right?
I think we don't have to know how to grieve, because there's a part of us that knows how to do it. So getting caught up in trying to quote unquote figure out how to grieve is just, it's a trap, because I think it's going to be a very dynamic process. And if you end up thinking you need to grieve in a particular way and you keep doing it that way, then you're not allowing the dynamics of grief to play out as they will. Yeah. So I really think it's just about stepping out of the way and just allowing your body to grieve, because it will. It definitely will. Whether or not we have pulled down the barriers to allow that process to happen is a completely different story. So
I don't agree. Me personally, I don't know how to grieve. I didn't know. My body didn't. It just didn't acknowledge. I worked harder. I saw logistical things that I needed to do. And there was no moment to until, I think I told you briefly, I got a position in Atlanta a few years ago to work in capacity of an acupuncture director inside of a very large hospital system. And when I got there, I didn't know any locations or addresses until I got there the day before. They gave me an address. The next day I showed up and my heart started pounding. Mm-hmm. And this was 2.5 years after my father passed away. And I was walking down the corridor of this hospital and my heart starts pounding and I'm like, what the hell? And I realized the acupuncture room is right next to the room that my father passed away in. Mm-hmm. And it forced me to literally it was shoved down my throat, your dad died here, right? And so people that knew, I called my friends and I was like, yo, I don't think I can do this. I'm freaking out. And they're like, why? I got a myriad of responses. Oh, this is your father's way of showing you that, you're on the right path. And the other people were like, damn, dude, your dad's fucking with you even now. And then the other people were like, well, it's been 2.5 years. Why are you not okay? And so even in that moment, I was like, shit, am I overreacting? Am I not overreacting? It was all these different things of oh my God, in my head logically, I'm like, okay, Zarumi passed away and people die in here all the time. Unfortunately, it's how it works. But it made me kind of introspectively question, why am I panicking? Why am I feeling this way? Mm-hmm. And for somebody who doesn't really allow emotional over control, I didn't know how to grieve. Mm-hmm. I don't cry because I think crying is useless. We'll unpack childhoods later on. But it was my parents always told me, if you have the time to cry, figure out a solution and fix it. And so I did. That's all I did my entire life. I would cry about being fuck, this is stupid, world gave me a bad hand, all right, I'm done, let me go get another certificate, let me go get another degree, let me go win an award, let me go make some money. Mm-hmm. You don't know how to grieve, right?
Can I clarify what I meant by that?
Yes, please.
I think there's different aspects of ourselves. Okay. And I think there's a very deep part of ourselves. Okay. That kind of just knows what to do. I hate referring to this because it's not a good way to guide people, that there's something very deep down inside of you that already kind of knows what the answer is. But
how do you find it?
So I can only explain my process, and I know it's not great advice for listeners out there, and it's definitely not the most, like, you're not going to get a quick answer, because my process has really just been to just keep letting go of aspects of my mind and my ego, and the more I let go and the more I can kind of just be present, the more that deep part of myself will just come out naturally. So I think, just at least in terms of what happened this past week, I was there, I got the news, and I just kind of waited, and I didn't tell myself I had to feel a certain way. I didn't tell myself I had to go anywhere or contact anyone. I just waited. And just by waiting, inevitably, things started to happen. Things started to arise. I allowed the process to happen. And I think the process of crying and grieving came about very naturally, and in a way that I felt like I never had to do anything. It just was there, and I was patient, and it did itself, for lack of a better way of saying it. And I think it's very difficult to do that. We're not conditioned to. I think number one is we don't really trust that it's going to happen. So therefore, we feel like we have to do something about it. I think if we really, really trusted that things would work out, we could take a step back. But taking a step back is very difficult when you're uncomfortable, and you do not want these feelings to persist. Then the most natural course of action is like, what do I do? How do I figure this out? But
it's hard.
Yeah,
You're like Yoda right now, in the best way possible. Like, I would love to be. That's the one thing I'm still working on. I trust myself with everything else, but there is so much, especially as an Asian female, there's so much like societal conditioning, right? This is what is expected of you, or this is what should be done. And I think that's always been such a struggle for me on a personal level, but also professional. Like, I don't move the way that was expected of me. It's part of a lot of the contention that I had with my parents of, I say things like they are. I do what I say what I do. But when it comes to these like feelings, it's so hard to trust here versus what the optics are, right? So, like, my best friend cried harder at my father's funeral than I did. It's not that I wasn't sad. I obviously was sad. I felt the loss. But falling apart in front of other people, or even behind closed doors, wasn't like my natural response of things. The really crazy part, I think, when I really processed the loss was this March. I turned 40, but my dad always wanted to write a book. He had compiled all these notes, and he had compiled everything over the course of his predecessors into his life and experience. And the last thing my father did before he lost his eyesight, he put that all into a computer for me to be able to access. And when I released my own book in March, I was showering and I was listening to freaking Ariana Grande, and she was like singing about like something not sad at all, and I just had an insane breakdown. I was mad. I was like yelling at my dad. I was mad at my dad, and I was like, you should have stayed on a little longer for me to have shown this to you, that like I can prove to you that I'm good at what I do. And then it was also sad that I didn't do it earlier when my dad was still alive. And like it's this tsunami of emotions, and I'm just not sure if it's the shower water, if it's my snot or my tears. I'm just like so many emotions at once that I just like sat in the shower until I was like shriveled because I didn't know where I ended with my emotions and like what was part of the inner piece. Like it was so hard for me to figure that out. And then turn off the water, I put on my makeup, put on clothes, and I went to work like nothing ever happened. So I don't know, it was, maybe it's a delayed response, or maybe there's different triggers or different things, but
it sounds like for whatever reason the conditions were set for something to happen, and it's because it's not like you got in the shower and you're like, all right, I figured it out.
Yeah.
This is how I'm gonna grieve my dad.
Yeah.
Right? It just kind of happened, and I think for whatever reason in that moment in time and space, something deeper inside of you was like, okay, we're gonna process it right fucking now.
Yeah.
So I think the process that actually happened though, like you didn't direct it. You weren't like, okay, first this, all right, now we'll do the anger part, and then.
Yeah.
So I really think that whatever mechanism caused that, we can touch it sooner and closer to the moment of that stress by just not, running away from the moment, not getting distracted from the moment, and just being there. And I think the sooner that happens, the better, right?
I would assume so.
The faster we can allow the process to happen, then we don't have to carry the baggage of it for like 2 years or however fucking long it took, and consumed however much amount of energy that it consumed internally. So I think at the end of the day, it's like time and space. Can you give your heart the time and space that it needs without pulling it away from what needs to be addressed immediately? So I think that was what I was referring to, in that there's a part of us that knows how to grieve. And I think that came out for you in the shower.
Yeah.
And I think it's there for everyone. I think some people are better than others at stuffing it down and making sure it never sees the light of day. I think some people are potentially better at, allowing that process to happen naturally. But I think the cleanest and the most efficient way to deal with it is still to let go and take a step back as best you can and just let it happen. Yeah. So after that experience you had, because I feel like grief, it doesn't happen all at once. It happens, maybe you get chunks of it out. I think I've cried several times. I just cried like 20 minutes ago. And do you feel like there's still more that needs to be resolved in terms of your father? Do you like when you think of him, is there a feeling of like, well, it wasn't the greatest relationship, but it was what it was, and there's a feeling of like calm and peace, or is there still some residue that gets dredged up?
I mean, to be fully honest, it's a love-hate relationship. There is infinite default of love because he's my father. I know his sacrifices to get me and my brothers through a really interesting life in the 90s, 2000s in fucking Georgia, right? As immigrant kids. They were younger than I am now when they moved out of South Korea to the States, right? And like, because I respect his struggles and all that, I love everything that he has done, everything that flows through my hands, my healing abilities, all those things, they're given by him.
Yeah, you have superpowers, man. I'm jealous. I want those superpowers. Fuck, man.
But it doesn't fully negate nor resolve the questions of like, why did you do the things that you did? Why did you say the things that you said, right? And so on that, I think the one thing that I do advise, and again, guys, we're practicing like Chinese medicine doctors and Tai Chi masters, and we teach other people how to do it, but it doesn't make us any better at this than any of you, right? But the one thing that I will say is, if any of you are in a position where you have questions or there's lingering residue or resentment or anything like that, don't wait until they're gone and unable to answer. Start the conversations now, right? Because what if I hadn't been too scared of hearing the answer and I did ask and we were able to resolve it and even have a day where we could have had more harmonious, before it was just finality of death. So when they say, oh, when you see your loved one, hug them, tell them you love them, I absolutely fucking mean that. Do that, right? And also, don't just reserve it for, oh, I love you and I'm happy you're here. Tell them, like, you really pissed me off the other day. It really hurt my feelings. And give them the opportunity to explain and or apologize so that you don't carry and consume your own happiness, essence, and life force and carry miscommunications and misconceptions that maybe this person didn't mean it that way and you just heard it the wrong way or whatever, right? But I don't have that opportunity with the people who are no longer in my life because I waited too damn long, because I was too scared or too anxious or wanting to keep the peace, right? Because now I'm not at peace and I will never have an answer, right? So don't wait. Say the things that you love. I mean, obviously don't go on like an insulting rampage where you're like telling everybody they suck, but like the true, genuine feelings, people that mean something to you, they mean something to you for a reason. And as much as you love and respect them, trust that they love and respect you and they wouldn't want you to be hurting or carrying this resentment if it's something that's so easy to be resolved or understood. It might not make the pain go away, right? But the understanding might make it easier to be digestible and not lodge right under your sternum, So, yeah.
That's great advice. That's great advice. Yeah. I think it's difficult to have difficult conversations with loved ones.
Yeah.
But, I think when people do have these conversations and they say what needs to be said, and it's usually things that aren't very pleasant, actually. A lot of deep-seated resentments. I think inevitably, after they have these conversations, there's always this sense of lightness and joy that happens, which is further proof that it's actually, consuming our life force. Because if we're able to get it out and we feel better and lighter after, then that means we were the ones suppressing and holding it down in the first place. But I think also, have the conversation. If it doesn't turn out the way you hoped or expected, I think that's okay.
Yeah.
I think it's okay for some people to not be in your life.
Yeah.
But I think it's not okay to shy away from things that really need to be said. And yeah, I think when people really do have the conversations, and even if it doesn't turn out great, I don't think anyone ever regrets that they had that conversation.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, all right, I did it.
Yeah,
And this is the situation now, and I can make better informed decisions in the future. So I think it's good not to try to predict outcomes, not to decide that this is the outcome that has to happen. I think you go in and you say what you need to say and you let the dust settle and be better off for it. Damn, that was heavy, man.
Yeah, it was. Proud of you.
Thank you. You know, I wrote a letter to my dad. Goddamn, I'm gonna start crying again. But I wrote a letter to my dad. It was after he passed, and I thought I had worked through a lot of the emotions. But I'm writing the letter, and I'm just like fucking bawling like a baby during it. And I think just, at least in my circumstance, he didn't need to be alive, but you can still have the conversation with him. Mm-hmm. And I felt like it was actually very, very therapeutic to do it. And I never had like a love-hate relationship. I had a great relationship with my dad. But even then, you know, writing that letter to him showed that there's still like a lot of stuff that I was holding in. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so sometimes maybe a little more practical advice, not just like be Yoda and let things happen. I think you can get the process started and do something like that. I found that to be really helpful. So, you know, for listeners out there, if you're wondering what's an actionable step to take, at least I found that worked very well for me.
I like that.
Well, I'm spent. I'm toast, man. I guess that's the Chi Talks. Keep detoxing and let your body do what it do.
I love you.